Reading from the warrant, quote, without requirement of knocking and announcing or giving prior notice of authority or purpose, end of quote. But before we get into this recent no-knock warrant, warrant served against me, it's really necessary to kind of show a pattern of harassment. This wasn't just some one-time thing. Some of you that have known me for a long time will know some of this stuff, but I think a lot of you, this will come as new information and possibly a surprise to you. So going back to 2015, I was exposing a bill in the legislature that was actually taking away power from the sheriff. It was creating a new Department of Land Management in the state of Utah. And what it did was it created a new bureaucrat that was appointed by the governor that would have the power above the sheriff all over the state of Utah to be able to write laws, to be able to execute those laws that he wrote, and then to be able to adjudicate and decide, hey, did the person that I arrested for violating the law that I wrote actually violate the law that I wrote? And so we were exposing what was going on and how it actually removed the power of the sheriff of being the ultimate authority within his county. And it got pretty heated. They had an emergency meeting at the state capitol, and a lot of people were really upset with what was going on. And so one of the state legislators, along with he's not in the legislature anymore, and along with his son, who was, I don't know if he still is or not, a county sheriff in Beaver County, and they admitted to somebody that I knew, actually two individuals that I knew that came back independently and told me what they had done. They had gone out to these other individuals and said, hey, do you know where Ben McClintock lives? Hey, do you know where Ben McClintock works? We have searched, I would mind you, illegally in the DMV records and can't find any of this information about Ben. Do you guys know anything about this information about Ben? And so one of them, unfortunately, gave that information away. And one weekend, so for 3 days after this occurred, the Utah County Sheriff's Department blocked my driveway with a DUI checkpoint. Now, you can see in this map how in the middle of nowhere this is. My nearest neighbor was like 2 miles away, and to be able to leave my house or to come back home, I have to go through the Utah County Sheriff's Department's DUI checkpoint. Now, the following year in 2 years later, in 2017, early 2017, in January of 2017, I'm away from home, my family home alone in this home that they had basically, harassed for an entire weekend, was home, and my home burnt down while I was away. My family was there, burnt down to the ground. When the fire department showed up, they refused to put out the fire. And following, the fire department refused to investigate the cause of said fire. And whenever I would call the local fire department, they refused to return my calls. They wouldn't answer the phone, and they refused to return any of my phone calls. Additionally, every single news station in the state of Utah refused to cover the fire. No matter where you're at, if there's a house fire going on, it's on the news. And all of them refused to cover it, as well as the Red Cross refused to provide any assistance to my now homeless family at the time. But that was pretty interesting. Okay, now that's 2017. Now, fast forward the next year, 2018, my 5-year-old at the time, daughter, was life flighted, near death, literally near death, life flighted to Primary Children's Hospital. And upon arrival to the hospital, she had a blood infection, but they also, once we were there, diagnosed her with leukemia. And so after she was able to, thankfully, she survived, and we left the hospital, and we were looking into saying, do we want to get some second opinions? Is this really leukemia? Are there different options that we can get? And so immediately, of course, Primary Children's Hospital, hopefully I don't have the same situation that others in Ammon had up in Idaho with Luke's, but Primary Children's Hospital called CPS. And CPS agent Xavier McLean comes out to my home and wants to wants to interrogate my 5-year-old daughter that had just gotten home from the hospital without my wife or myself present. We, of course, said that's ridiculous. We're not going to do that. We don't know you. And no, you're not going to interview our 5-year-old daughter and maybe put some false ideas in there, or just it's none of your business. And so we refused. And so Xavier filed a lie, a document that claimed two different things that he claimed in this document to have witnessed himself. He claims to have personally witnessed us starving our daughter and refusing to give her liquids. Claimed to have seen us do those things. He's never met her. He's never seen her. But on the document to kidnap our child, he perjured himself and claimed that he witnessed personally both of those things. And so immediately I put his face and his personal cell phone number on the radio and online. And a couple of days later, I get a phone call from Xavier saying, "We've dropped all the charges. We have no evidence against you." So because this is what they try to get you to do. They try to get you to cower. They try to get you to back off and go in the shadows. And so that way they can get away with whatever they want to get away with. But when you put the spotlight on them, they back off. They back away, and you're able to have your liberty. It's when you cow down to them that like a dog, they see a beta male and they see him cowering and they get bigger and bigger. But when you stand up to them, they get scared and they run off. And so afterwards, I filed a perjury claim with the Utah County Sheriff's Department as well as the county attorney. And the response that I got from both of them was that Xavier had qualified immunity, meaning he's allowed to lie doing his job of kidnapping your child. And so both the county sheriff as well as the attorney refused to take any action against him for lying in an attempt to steal my child. And then now this brings us up to last night, which is November 27th, 2023. I'm outside. I'm walking outside my home, going out to my van, looking for some things and grabbing some things outside of my house. And I get outside the van, and all of a sudden I see 15, 20 SWAT team members running down the street towards me. At the time, right, I'm not thinking that they're coming after me. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Are they going to ask me to go inside, that they've got some kind of something going on in some of their house? And then I realize, oh my goodness, no, they're after me. And so I'm thinking in my head, right, I've talked about this before, and I'm not shy about this, that with the fact that that there are reports out there that say the average person commits 3 felonies a day. And so I'm like, if I'm committing 3 felonies a day because our government is so big and so tyrannical, I might as well be thoughtful about it. And so I'm thinking in the back of my head, what is it that they are coming after me for? And so as I'm thinking about these things, he's asking me, is this your home? And, I ask him, I'm like, what is this all about? And I'm not giving him any information until he gives me information about what he's doing. And so he takes that as an admission that it's my home and of who I am. And he says that they have a warrant to search my home. And so thank heavens. So just like I mentioned in the very beginning, that this is a no-knock warrant. Thank heavens that I was outside and saw them coming at us while I was outside, as opposed to being in the house with my children and having them bust down the door unannounced, tearing apart the place. What could have happened? We'll get into that in a second. And so we have the detective. So, his name is Detective Mortensen of the Utah County Sheriff's Department. Again, Utah County, isn't that interesting? Different sheriff, right? Just like we see in all levels of government, different elected officials, same plans. It's almost like it's a conspiracy. It's wild. So Detective Mortensen is part of a pattern of himself, of abuse. And so just look at this report right here from the Salt Lake Tribune talking about how Detective Mortensen was actually a part of murdering an individual. Didn't say why they pulled them over, but they pulled over a guy and claimed he had a gun and murdered him. They won't even tell you why they were trying to stop him, but they murdered him. And then in another situation, we have this video here of this same Detective Mortensen and his same department, his same task force, abusing somebody else they know didn't do what they claimed that he did. Watch this.
A Utah police sergeant, a detective, 2 police officers, Utah County, and the cities of American Fork and Spanish Fork are all facing a federal lawsuit. It centers on alleged actions taken by the Utah County Major Crimes Task Force in 2019. The law offices of Sykes McAllister claim police pulled Michael Roy over in their search for a dangerous fugitive.
They approached the vehicle with guns drawn in a pre-planned and orchestrated attempt to bring the driver of this vehicle into custody.
Roy claims at least 2 of the officers knew he was not the fugitive they were looking for, but they continued to use excessive force, unlawful seizure, outrageous conduct, and more. Sorensen says the purpose of the lawsuit is to hold the officers accountable.
All righty. So now this is the pattern of what Detective Mortensen has. And then as I'm going to read from you the no-knock warrant that he wrote against me, that he served against me, and the perjury, I believe, that he put on in the warrant. And so if with this background of him murdering someone, of his unit, beating someone that they knew wasn't what they were looking for, but beat him anyways, what would have happened if I was inside the house and I see a threat to my family? Could have gone much, much differently. And so this warrant, and I'm going to get into the judge that served the warrant, but I'm going to show you the claims of this warrant. That was served to me from the 4th District Court of Utah County in the state of Utah. This Detective Mortensen of the Utah County Major Crimes Task Force, this day I am satisfied that there is probable cause to believe that there is now certain property or evidence described as illegal controlled substances in various forms of production, from raw marijuana bud and plant to processed THC in the form of THC dab, components of a clandestine lab, including glass beakers and jars, butane chemicals, burners, ovens, camp stoves, marijuana grow equipment such as pots, soil, plants in various stages of growth, heaters, ventilators, PPE, chemicals and supplies needed to grow plants indoors, CO2 emitters, watering supplies. Additionally, any other item intended to grow, operate, and maintain a clandestine dab laboratory or marijuana grow. I am satisfied that there's probable cause to believe that all of these things exist, and said property or evidence was unlawfully acquired or is unlawfully possessed, has been used or is possessed for the purpose of being used to commit or conceal the commission of an offense. Conceal the commission of an offense, or is evidence of illegal conduct. He claims that he was satisfied that there is probable cause to believe. What was his probable cause to believe all of those things about me? Right. I have a 3D printer. 3D printing causes fumes. I have a hose exiting my window to get the fumes out of my house. Didn't talk to me, didn't talk to a family member, didn't talk to a neighbor, didn't watch us, didn't, do a stakeout to see, oh, do we have people coming and going that is typical of a drug lab or a drug dealer? Do we have people coming and going like that? Is there any type of evidence besides a hose exiting my window? Let that be a warning to all of you. Don't have hoses going out of your window. Otherwise, your local sheriff's department is going to have probable cause to believe that you are a major drug producer and distributor. Baloney. Obviously, that is not the real reason why they're going after me, why we have this consistent multi-year attack and harassment of myself and my family. Now, the judge, Thomas Lowe, 4th District Court judge in Utah County. He's the one that signed this. Nowhere on this this no-knock search warrant where they can bust into my house and not even tell me why they're there, does it say that, why there was probable cause to believe all of those things were in my home, which they weren't, because that's not my thing, right? That's not my thing. And so who is this guy? Let's check this out. He lives over in Heber. And look at this news story about this judge and his statement about a former LDS bishop, former because he got caught for doing what he did, object raped 2 women. And this man this judge who signed this no-knock warrant calls this object rapist a good guy. Madness. These are the people that we have in government that are doing these things. It's important that we expose what's going on. It's important that we understand what's really going on. So that's the probable cause statement that they said that they had. It was signed by him. And so we have this multi-year coordinated harassment by county and state officials that history with these individuals show clearly that this no-knock raid, without the blessings and providence of heaven, could have ended up in my murder and maybe family members and massive damage to property. So also after that, right, we have my neighbors who see this massive SWAT raid on my home. What are my neighbors on my street? It's a small street. It's a one-sided street. And, it's not exactly a lot going on in this quiet little neighborhood. And they see this massive SWAT raid going on in my house. What are they thinking about me in their neighborhood now? And my landlord is now considering evicting me because of this harassment from local officials. These are the consequences of their harassment because they're afraid of exposure. It's madness and it's got to stop, but I'm not going to stop. Every time that they've done these things, I have doubled down, and I'm going to continue to double down. I'm going to make it my mission to stand for liberty and expose tyrants and those that are enforcing the orders of would-be tyrants, and showing you everything I can about these individuals. So Daniel in the lion's den, that's Daniel, the story of Daniel, he boldly defied the law. He openly opened a window and said, I am going to disobey you. And I hope that I have the courage to follow that example and not cower down, but go to the window and say, throw me away. God will protect me, or I will be justified if it is my time to go. These pretend rulers have shown their illegitimacy. They do not have the consent of the governed through fraud and through lack of participation. They are illegitimate because they are violating their oaths to their office, and they have total contempt for the rule of law and the rights of the people. So I hope that this inspires others to do the same thing. Join with me in defying these would-be tyrants. Don't allow them, because every time you do, they cower. They do not, because they need your perceived legitimacy to have their power. And when we stand up against them, that puts into question their perceived authority. And so they either have two choices to make: to back down and say, oh, my goodness, you're right. We did the wrong thing. And we're going to put things, measures in place to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Or they have to double down and wake up more people to the tyranny that is going on. If you can have your house have a no-knock raid simply because you have a plastic hose coming out of your window with no other evidence of any type of crime or wrongdoing going on, they can search your house for any reason that they want. It's crazy. It's madness. It's got to stop. I appreciate your support and join with me in these activities, and to join with us with what we're doing with the Tree of Liberty Society. They're clearly afraid of what we're doing, which is a good thing. I'm excited about that. So hopefully, if you got any questions, please put them in the comment section. Please share this with others, and so that more people can understand the illegitimacy of the actions of your state and local government officials, and that they can start to lose their authority, because these guys are criminals and they needed to be treated as such in every sense of the word. So if you're going to do that, if you're going to, you're going to get me anyways, might as well just call it out like it is. But hope you join with us, and we'll